Chief Marcus Harlow, the respected head of the city's public safety division, began recounting an incident that would soon become the talk of his neighborhood. In his measured yet engaging tone, he introduced the curious chain of events revolving around an irate neighbor, Gloria Templeton, whose actions over something as trivial as a wireless network passphrase spiraled into unexpected chaos. Marcus explained that, on what had started as a routine evening at home, he encountered a minor technical hiccup while enjoying his favorite streaming series on his high-speed internet connection. Although many might dismiss such inconveniences, this one would prove to be the catalyst for an extraordinary confrontation. As Marcus recounted the details, his clear, authoritative voice conveyed both his professionalism and a hint of disbelief that something so small could escalate so dramatically. He described his normally quiet residential street. A community where neighbors knew one another and conflicts were rare. It was here that Gloria, a woman known for her fiery temperament and unwavering demands, first set her sights on his wireless network. Although the incident began innocuously, it quickly unfolded into a full-blown spectacle that would test his patience and his commitment to the law. Marcus recalled how he had initially thought that minor network issues were simply part of modern life, common annoyances in an era of streaming and digital connectivity. However, as the night progressed, it became apparent that the disturbance was more than a technical glitch. Gloria had been making frequent, unsolicited visits to nearby homes, voicing her frustrations about her own interrupted streaming experiences. In a community meeting that followed a series of similar complaints, Marcus's role as a mediator was well known, but nothing had prepared him for what was about to unfold on his own doorstep. With a calm yet vivid narrative, Marcus painted the picture of that fateful evening, the setting sun casting long shadows on the quiet cul-de-sac, the sound of distant traffic blending with the chirps of evening crickets, and an underlying tension that hinted at an impending conflict. He detailed how the issue of a simple wireless network passphrase, meant to secure his private connection, became a lightning rod for community ire when Gloria, convinced that her own connection had been sabotaged, set her sights on him. The chief's introduction was not merely an announcement of the incident, it was a window into the complexities of modern life where digital technology, personal space, and community expectations collide. In his narrative, Marcus expressed both a wry humor and a sober concern about how a routine act of network maintenance could provoke such an intense reaction. Little did he know that the events he had just described would soon evolve into a saga that questioned the very limits of neighborly tolerance and civic responsibility. One quiet evening, while settling into his comfortable home after a long day, Marcus Harlow decided to wind down by watching a much-anticipated episode of his favorite streaming series. However, as the opening credits rolled, he was immediately interrupted by persistent buffering and lag, uncharacteristic for his usually reliable high-speed connection. Frustration began to bubble up inside him, not merely because of the interruption, but also due to the realization that his home network might have been compromised in some unknown way. Determined to restore his uninterrupted viewing experience, Marcus decided that the best solution was to change the access credentials for his wireless network. In his mind, a new passphrase would not only secure his connection but also possibly thwart any external interference he had not previously anticipated. After some thought, he chose an audacious and playful password, "Try catch me now." This phrase, he mused with a wry smile, was intended to serve as both a challenge to any would-be interlopers and a statement of his own technological savvy. Meticulously, Marcus navigated through his router's settings on his sleek laptop. He paused only momentarily to consider the implications of his decision. Was he merely addressing a temporary glitch, or was he unknowingly stepping into a potential neighborhood controversy? The procedure was straightforward: log in, change the network credentials, and then re-establish his devices on the new system. Within minutes, the transformation was complete, and the new password was securely in place. As he resumed his evening, the streaming service quickly responded, and the once interrupted show began to play smoothly. Marcus felt a surge of relief and satisfaction that his quick thinking had resolved the technical hiccup. Little did he know that his decision to change the network passphrase would soon trigger a chain reaction of events far beyond a mere digital fix. In the new network settings, the sleek lines of his modern home office, and the ambient glow of his computer screen set the stage for what would soon become a notable incident in his career. In the quiet hum of his secure digital world, Marcus Harlow unknowingly planted the seed of a conflict that would soon force him to balance his roles as a technophile and a public protector. Not long after Marcus had settled back into his routine with the new network credentials in place, an unexpected knock on his front door shattered the calm of his evening. Standing on his doorstep was Gloria Templeton, the neighbor whose fiery reputation had long been the subject of hushed conversations among locals. With her arms crossed and an unmistakable look of irritation etched on her face, Gloria demanded to know the new wireless network passphrase. Her voice, sharp and insistent, carried an undercurrent of frustration that resonated with anyone who had ever experienced the vexations of digital life. Gloria claimed that her streaming service had been abruptly interrupted, leaving her unable to enjoy her preferred entertainment during her rare moments of leisure. Adding to her grievances, she mentioned an alarming detail: she believed that a police vehicle had been spotted parked near Marcus's house. This suggestion was meant to insinuate that something was amiss, and it seemed designed to pressure Marcus into yielding to her demands. Marcus, who had been enjoying the newfound smoothness of his digital entertainment, was caught completely off guard by this unwelcome interruption. Standing at his doorway, he listened as Gloria's accusations poured forth, accusations that blended technical frustration with personal entitlement. The notion that his routine act of updating his network security could result in such vehement opposition was, in his mind, as absurd as it was infuriating. In that moment, Marcus experienced a mix of disbelief and irritation. Here he was, having taken all the necessary precautions to ensure a secure and uninterrupted streaming experience, and yet his thoughtful actions had inadvertently incited a neighbor's ire. Gloria's demand for the passphrase was not merely about accessing the network, it was an assertion of her own perceived right to seamless entertainment, regardless of the privacy and security measures Marcus had put in place. As the tension mounted at his doorstep, Marcus realized that this confrontation was about to test the boundaries of neighborly decorum. Gloria's presence, uninvited and insistent, set the stage for a clash that went beyond technical support. It was a battle over control, respect, and the sanctity of personal space. In her eyes, the new network passphrase symbolized a barrier to her own digital enjoyment, and she was determined to have it removed. Marcus's initial reaction was one of measured calm, though his inner thoughts raced as he considered the absurdity of the situation. Here was a dispute born not of high crime or moral decay, but of something as mundane as a network password. Nonetheless, the gravity of the moment was not lost on him, for it underscored the complex interplay between modern technology and community relationships, a balance that could be easily upset by even the smallest change. As Gloria's demands echoed into the cool night air, Marcus braced himself for what was to come, aware that this was only the beginning of an evening that would challenge his patience, his role as a public servant, and his very notions of neighborly respect. With tension crackling in the cool evening air, Marcus Harlow's interaction with Gloria Templeton took an unexpected turn. After her initial barrage of complaints at his doorstep, Gloria's frustration escalated, demanding not just an explanation but an immediate concession. Standing before her, Marcus decided it was time to address the root of her anger head-on. Calmly, he revealed his true identity. He was not just any resident but the city's chief of public safety, a man entrusted with maintaining order and safeguarding community interests. The declaration of his official position was met with a momentary silence from Gloria, as if the very weight of his words had momentarily softened her anger. Yet, almost immediately, her resolve hardened. Even after learning that Marcus was the esteemed Chief Harlow, Gloria's determination did not waver. Instead, she fixed him with a steely gaze and insisted that he still hand over the new network passphrase. In her mind, his title was irrelevant compared to the inconvenience she felt, and the mere mention of police authority did nothing to placate her escalating demands. Gloria's unyielding stance became a microcosm of a broader, more complex dispute. The clash between individual rights and communal responsibility in the digital age. Marcus, who prided himself on his ability to handle crises with both authority and empathy, found himself in a situation where protocol and personal sentiment collided. Here was a neighbor who, in her frustration, had allowed a technical hiccup to metamorphose into a personal grievance, a grievance that she believed warranted immediate redress, regardless of the circumstances. As the conversation deepened, Marcus attempted to reason with Gloria. He explained that the new passphrase, chosen not as a slight against her but as a necessary security measure, was intended solely to protect his private network from unauthorized access. His words were measured and calm, yet they seemed to fall on deaf ears. Gloria's eyes narrowed further, and her tone grew more imperious as she dismissed his explanations as mere bureaucratic excuses. In her view, his position as the chief should compel him to overlook her inconvenience rather than enforce rules that she found trivial. Throughout the ensuing dialogue, Marcus felt a growing tension between his duty to enforce the law and his innate desire to maintain peace in his community. On one hand, the decision to change his network's passphrase was a standard precaution, a small administrative matter that had been handled with care and professionalism. On the other hand, Gloria's relentless insistence suggested that her personal enjoyment of digital entertainment was a matter of principle, one that she was willing to defend at any cost. The evening air seemed to thicken with each word exchanged. Gloria's demands began to adopt an almost defiant tone, as if challenging not only Marcus's decision but his very authority. She argued that the inconvenience to her streaming service was proof of some deeper injustice. A claim that defied logical explanation yet carried the fervor of a woman determined to have her way. In response, Marcus maintained his composure, carefully reiterating the importance of maintaining secure personal boundaries and the reasons behind his decision. As minutes turned into what felt like an eternity, the situation grew increasingly fraught. The normally quiet street bore witness to this unusual confrontation, a meeting of minds where reason and entitlement clashed head-on. Marcus, ever the professional, tried to de-escalate the tension by emphasizing that his actions were not a personal affront but a standard security measure, one that any prudent homeowner would take. However, Gloria's frustration had reached a fever pitch, and she refused to accept his assurances. In the end, despite the revelation of his high-ranking position, Gloria's demand for the network passphrase remained unyielding. Her stance underscored a troubling disconnect between the principles of responsible digital security and a growing culture of instant gratification and entitlement. Marcus Harlow, standing firm in his duty, could only watch as the situation spiraled further, a spiral that promised to challenge the very foundations of neighborly respect and communal trust. This confrontation, charged with the raw emotions of modern digital life, set the stage for the unfolding drama. It was a stark reminder that even the most mundane of decisions, like changing a network password, could ignite passions and provoke disputes that went far beyond their seemingly trivial origins. After the initial standoff at his doorstep, Gloria Templeton's face betrayed a mixture of shock and indignation when she realized that Marcus Harlow was not just any homeowner but the city's chief of public safety. This revelation, instead of calming her ire, only deepened the intensity of her protest. The very idea that a figure of authority should be subject to her grievances seemed, in her mind, utterly inconceivable. Yet, rather than softening her demands, the knowledge that Marcus held an esteemed position only emboldened her to press on. Gloria's eyes widened momentarily with disbelief as Marcus calmly reiterated his official credentials. The sound of her gasp seemed to hang in the cool evening air, a fleeting moment of vulnerability in an otherwise determined tirade. But even as that initial shock passed, Gloria's resolve remained firm. She continued to insist that the new wireless network passphrase, now known as "Try Catch Me Now," be handed over without delay. To her, the security measures that Marcus had so thoughtfully implemented were nothing more than obstacles to her personal convenience. In the ensuing dialogue, Chief Harlow's tone shifted from patient explanation to a stern reprimand. His words, though measured and deliberate, carried the weight of authority that came with years of experience in maintaining public order. He scolded Gloria for her unauthorized attempts to access his private network, emphasizing that her actions constituted not just a breach of neighborly trust but a clear violation of the principles of digital privacy. Every word he spoke was laced with the disappointment of a man who had always believed that common courtesy could prevail in even the most trying circumstances. Gloria, however, refused to yield. Her insistence became a symbol of what she perceived as a deep-seated injustice, a refusal by a public servant to accommodate her personal needs. She argued that, as a fellow member of the community, she was entitled to share in the benefits of modern connectivity. Her voice, at times quavering with a mix of anger and hurt, demanded not just the passphrase but a recognition of her rights. To her, the chief's enforcement of digital boundaries was a direct affront to her lifestyle, one that needed to be rectified immediately. Marcus listened intently, his mind racing to reconcile the conflicting demands of duty and neighborly goodwill. He understood that, in a world increasingly dominated by digital interactions, even the smallest security measure could be misconstrued as an act of exclusion. Yet, he also recognized the necessity of safeguarding personal privacy in an era where boundaries were continually tested by technological advances. His reprimand was not born out of personal animosity but a commitment to upholding the law and ensuring that the community's standards were maintained. As the verbal confrontation escalated, the atmosphere around Marcus's home grew tense. The onlookers in the neighborhood, drawn by the raised voices and heated words, began to gather at a respectful distance. Whispers of disbelief rippled through the small crowd, as neighbors grappled with the surreal sight of a public safety chief engaged in a dispute over a wireless network password. Marcus's stern tone, coupled with the clear disappointment in his eyes, served as a poignant reminder of the fine line between personal freedom and the responsibilities that come with communal living. Despite the weight of his authority, Marcus's reprimand carried an undercurrent of regret. He wished that such conflicts could be avoided through simple understanding and mutual respect. Instead, he was forced to confront the harsh reality that even the most carefully considered actions could spark controversy in a community sensitized to every minor inconvenience. His words echoed in the quiet of the evening, a somber reminder that technological advancements, no matter how well-intentioned, could sometimes lead to unexpected and divisive consequences. In that fraught moment, as Gloria's protests continued unabated, Marcus Harlow found himself caught between the duty to enforce the rules and the desire to preserve the peace of his neighborhood. His reprimand was a firm declaration of the importance of digital privacy, yet it also underscored the broader challenges of modern living, a delicate balance between personal security and the communal bonds that hold a neighborhood together. As the heated exchange deepened on that fateful evening, Gloria Templeton's demands took on an even more aggressive tone. No longer content with merely insisting on the wireless network passphrase, "Try catch me now," she escalated her demands by insisting that Chief Marcus Harlow immediately change the password to one that would grant her unfettered access to his secure connection. Her voice, now tinged with desperation and indignation, reverberated through the quiet street, drawing even more attention from nearby residents. Gloria's relentless persistence left Marcus with little choice but to confront the situation with a firmness that few had witnessed before. Although he had maintained a calm and rational demeanor throughout their previous interactions, her repeated demands began to breach the bounds of acceptable neighborly behavior. The chief's internal struggle became palpable as he weighed his responsibility to uphold the law against the simple human desire to avoid conflict. Yet, in that moment, the safety and security of his household, and by extension, the sanctity of his digital privacy, had to take precedence. With a heavy heart and a resolute tone, Marcus explained to Gloria that her continuous intrusion and unauthorized attempts to coerce him into altering his secure settings were not only unwarranted but also a violation of the very principles of community conduct. His words were measured but carried the unmistakable gravity of someone accustomed to dealing with breaches of public order. He reminded her that any further insistence on her part could be construed as harassment and trespassing, offenses that he was duty-bound to address under the law. Despite his measured warning, Gloria's anger only swelled. She accused Marcus of being callous and dismissive of her needs, her voice rising with every word. It was then that Marcus, realizing that the situation had escalated far beyond a simple disagreement over technology, made the difficult decision to enforce the law. With a heavy heart, he informed Gloria that he had no alternative but to place her under arrest for harassment and trespassing on his property. The gravity of the decision was not lost on Marcus. Here was a man who had spent his career upholding the law, now forced to act against a neighbor over a dispute that, under different circumstances, might have been resolved with dialogue alone. As he reached for the handcuffs, the tension in the air grew almost unbearable. Neighbors who had gathered to watch the unfolding drama exchanged anxious glances, their expressions a mixture of shock and sympathy. Marcus's actions were deliberate and filled with regret. He explained in a firm yet compassionate tone that while he understood the frustrations of the modern digital age, the sanctity of one's personal security could not be compromised by individual whims. His decision to arrest Gloria was not taken lightly. It was a necessary step to preserve the order and privacy that his position demanded him to protect. Gloria's face contorted with a mix of anger, disbelief, and a dawning realization that her actions had indeed crossed a line. The confrontation had reached a point where reason and entitlement collided, leaving no room for compromise. With the sound of the handcuffs clicking shut, the quiet street was pierced by a profound silence, a silence that spoke volumes about the cost of unchecked demands and the fragile balance between personal rights and community responsibilities. As the arrest was carried out, Marcus's heart felt heavy with the burden of having to enforce a law against someone he had once considered a fellow neighbor. In that moment, he was not just a public servant but a man caught in the web of modern dilemmas, where digital disputes could spiral into matters of legal consequence. The decision to arrest Gloria would mark a turning point, a moment that would forever change the dynamics of their neighborhood and serve as a sobering reminder of the responsibilities that come with the digital age. Immediately following the decision to arrest Gloria Templeton, Chief Marcus Harlow moved swiftly to execute the measures necessary to restore order. With a calm yet resolute demeanor, he methodically secured Gloria's hands with handcuffs and guided her toward the waiting patrol vehicle. The unfolding scene was surreal, a clash of modern technology and age-old principles of law enforcement playing out on a quiet suburban street. As Marcus led Gloria to the police car, a small crowd of neighbors began to gather, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as they tried to comprehend the gravity of the situation. For many, the idea that a dispute over a wireless network passphrase could escalate to the point of an arrest was almost unfathomable. Yet, there it was, a scene that challenged the very boundaries of what was considered acceptable in a closely knit community. The officers on the scene, who had been alerted by Marcus's earlier warnings, exchanged glances that conveyed both bemusement and the heavy burden of duty. They recognized that the incident, while seemingly absurd in its origins, was a direct violation of the standards of neighborly conduct that their community valued. The arrest of Gloria was not merely an enforcement of the law, it was a poignant reminder that personal boundaries, especially in the digital age, must be respected. Marcus's own feelings during the arrest were a complex mix of regret, determination, and a sense of duty. He had spent years building trust within his community, always hoping that issues like these could be resolved amicably. Yet, in that charged moment, he found himself forced to choose between upholding the law and maintaining the fragile harmony of neighborly relations. His measured actions, while necessary, reflected the harsh reality that even the smallest disputes could trigger irreversible consequences. Throughout the arrest, Marcus's voice remained firm as he reiterated to the onlookers and to Gloria herself the reasons behind his actions. He explained that her continuous intrusion, coupled with her persistent demands for his private network's credentials, left him no choice but to treat the matter as a serious breach of privacy and respect. His words, though stern, carried the weight of authority and the burden of having to protect not only his own rights but the standards of the entire community. The gathering crowd watched in a mix of awe and sympathy. Some neighbors appeared to understand the necessity of Marcus's actions, while others whispered concerns about the potential fallout from such an unprecedented incident. For a brief moment, the usually tranquil street was transformed into a stage for a modern drama, a drama that laid bare the challenges of balancing individual freedom with collective responsibility in an era of digital interconnectivity. As Gloria was escorted into the patrol car, the absurdity of the situation did not escape anyone's notice. The juxtaposition of a high-ranking public official enforcing the law over a dispute that originated from a mere network password was a stark commentary on the evolving nature of modern conflicts. Marcus Harlow's expression, as he watched the scene unfold, revealed the inner conflict of a man who had always strived to uphold the law with fairness and empathy. In that moment of collective shock, the community was forced to confront a new reality. One in which the boundaries between personal privacy and communal responsibility were not always clear-cut. The arrest of Gloria Templeton served as a catalyst for discussions on digital etiquette, neighborly respect, and the unforeseen consequences of technological advancements on everyday life. It was a moment that would be remembered, dissected, and debated by residents for years to come. At the police station later that night, the atmosphere was subdued yet charged with the energy of the earlier events. Chief Marcus Harlow oversaw the formal interrogation of Gloria Templeton, who now found herself facing a series of serious charges. In a stark, fluorescent-lit room, Gloria sat across from a seasoned detective while Marcus explained, in a calm and methodical manner, the specifics of the charges levied against her. He detailed that her repeated trespassing onto his property, her persistent harassment, and her unauthorized attempts to access his private wireless network constituted clear violations of community laws. Every word Marcus spoke carried the weight of responsibility, not just for his own home's security, but for the maintenance of order within the entire neighborhood. As he outlined the charges, Gloria's protests were met with a firm yet compassionate demeanor that underscored the seriousness of her actions. The interrogation room, though small, became a crucible where modern disputes and traditional law enforcement intersected. Neatly organized files and legal documents were presented as evidence of her repeated transgressions. Marcus's explanation, clear and unyielding, left little doubt that her behavior was unacceptable under the law. Gloria, in the midst of her questioning, alternated between moments of defiance and reluctant acknowledgement. The gravity of the situation began to seep in, and even the most vehement outbursts gradually gave way to a quieter realization of the consequences of her actions. The officers present, along with Marcus's calm reassurance, worked to ensure that the process was as fair as it was firm. In that sterile environment, the clash between individual entitlement and community responsibility was laid bare. The interrogation served not only as a legal procedure but as a powerful statement on the importance of respecting boundaries, both physical and digital, in an increasingly connected world. Within the confines of the police station, word of the arrest soon spread like wildfire. The incident, extraordinary in its origins, became the focal point of discussions among the officers and staff. Gloria Templeton's case was dissected in hushed tones and impassioned debates, as colleagues tried to understand how a dispute over a wireless network passphrase could lead to such drastic measures. Chief Marcus Harlow took a moment to address the matter directly. In a private conversation with several officers, he explained with measured clarity the series of events that had led to the arrest. He reiterated that Gloria's actions, her repeated demands and persistent intrusion, had not only violated community standards but had also endangered the peaceful coexistence that the neighborhood had long enjoyed. Marcus calmly detailed how his decision was rooted in a commitment to uphold the law and protect his own privacy, as well as that of the entire community. His explanation, delivered with the assurance of a seasoned public servant, underscored the seriousness of her behavior while acknowledging the broader implications of modern digital disputes. Gloria, still seated in the interrogation room, listened as Marcus's voice conveyed the weight of responsibility and the rationale behind every decision made that evening. Though she continued to protest softly, her tone gradually shifted from defiant to reflective, as the magnitude of the situation became impossible to ignore. The incident, now the subject of much discussion among the station's staff, served as a sobering reminder of the unpredictable nature of modern conflicts. Marcus's calm explanation not only clarified the legal grounds for the arrest but also sparked a wider conversation about the intersection of technology, privacy, and community values. In the charged atmosphere of the station, every officer seemed to grasp the importance of the case, a case that transcended the simple act of changing a network passphrase. In the final hours of the tumultuous day, Chief Marcus Harlow sought to bring the bizarre incident to a close with a measured resolution. Recognizing that prolonged conflict would only erode the fragile bonds of neighborhood trust, he extended an olive branch to Gloria Templeton. In a quiet moment away from the public glare of the station, Marcus offered Gloria a straightforward proposal: if she would issue a sincere apology for her repeated intrusions and sign a formal agreement never to attempt unauthorized access to his private wireless network again, the matter would be resolved without further legal action. Gloria, now visibly subdued by the weight of her actions and the gravity of the situation, hesitated before accepting the chief's terms. After a long pause, during which the implications of the agreement sank in, she reluctantly nodded in agreement. Marcus's proposal was not just a means to end the dispute, it was an opportunity for both parties to learn and move forward, restoring a sense of order and mutual respect within the community. With the agreement signed and her apology accepted, Gloria's case was formally closed. Marcus, though still carrying the burden of a difficult decision, felt a measure of relief. He understood that his actions had been necessary to preserve the integrity of his role as chief and the security of his home, but he also recognized the importance of compassion in resolving conflicts born of modern misunderstandings. Returning to his home later that night, Marcus finally allowed himself to reclaim the peace of his personal sanctuary. The events of the day, though surreal and unsettling, had imparted valuable lessons on the limits of entitlement and the necessity of safeguarding personal boundaries. Settling into his favorite chair, he resumed his long-interrupted viewing of a popular series, grateful for the opportunity to finally experience a moment of calm after a day marked by extraordinary events. In the quiet glow of his living room, as the credits rolled on the show and the digital hum of his secure network provided a comforting backdrop, Marcus Harlow reflected on the delicate balance between individual rights and communal responsibilities in an increasingly interconnected world. The day's events, though challenging and fraught with tension, had ultimately paved the way for a new understanding, a beginning in which respect, accountability, and clear boundaries would guide the interactions of all who called the neighborhood home.